What's going on, everyone? I'm Travis Brown with the Eagle, alongside Nick Starkel, former Texas A&M, and I guess we'll throw in their former Arkansas and San Jose State quarterback here because of what's coming up this week. This is the quarterback room where we break down some X's and O's, or just what it's like to be a college football player in some of these situations. Nick, man, what's going on?
Well, coming off a good win last week, Corona Del Mar took down the Trabuco Hills Mustangs, 17-15. It wasn't a pretty one, but we got it done. And a side note, our quarterbacks are all obsessed with Johnny Manziel at this high school, as they should be, because I love Johnny. And posted a little story, and we were all hitting the little top season logo. And Johnny reposted it for our guys, and they were pretty stoked on that. So shout out to Johnny. He's a great dude, and he's still so influential in quarterback rooms across the country.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Really
Cool. That's he's a passing game coordinator over at Corona Del Mar High School in California. Nick is let's get into the biggest storyline of this week, and that is the quarterback situation at A&M. Connor Wigman, of course, goes out with a lower leg, an ankle sprain. Jimbo Fisher called it about 4 minutes before halftime. Max Johnson comes in, moves the ball well. Nick, I know from your experience, let's start off with the front side of that. I remember being in the Rose Bowl 2017, playing UCLA. This kid named Nick Starkel wins out the starting quarterback job for the Aggies. We're all excited to see what he can do, and midway through the game, it's a lower leg injury as well, and Kellen Mond comes in. Just what do you remember about? I'm sure you remember a lot about that game. What do you remember about that game, that play, and what's that like for a quarterback who has to kind of go through that?
Yeah, injuries, especially at the quarterback position, and just injuries in general, they can completely change the trajectory of what seems like your life. And I know that sounds heavy, and you're like, well, dude, it's a sprained ankle, or it's a broken ankle, but that really does have that ripple down effect on you, on a team, on an organization, and on your life ultimately. And so basically, I'm trying to run away from a defensive end who ends up going, I think, top 10 in the draft a couple years later, Jalen Phillips. And he's a true freshman at the time, quick guy. Ends up taking me down right by the sideline on third down. I think I got like 1 or 2 yards on the rush, but I just remember he hit me. Another guy kind of landed on me. I popped up, took a couple steps, and I was like, ooh, something's not right. And Coach Sumlin was actually right there next to me. And so I took a couple of steps, and then I kind of buckled down, and I held on to him. And immediately when you go down, especially at the quarterback position, and everyone was watching me because I just had the ball, they saw me get rolled up. I pop up, and then they see me limping. And so immediately I'm going to the training table. Mm-hmm. And you've got head athletic trainer, you've got head ortho over there with you, and they're starting to poke and prod around. And it took probably 30 seconds for them to say, you need to go get x-rays. As soon as they start poking on my leg, my tibia, it's shooting pain all the way up my leg, through my foot. And they're like, all right, we got to go get x-rays. And at that moment, usually those athletic trainers, they're pretty dialed in, and they know, okay, this is just a sprained ankle, or, hey, this is probably a break. And so when they tell you, let's go get some x-rays, that's usually not a good sign. And so that's kind of when the emotions hit in.
Yeah, I want to stop you right there real quick because I have a question there. I know, especially, and I think they had them when you were playing too, once that training tent goes up, it's like a hall of mysteries. No one knows what goes on there. I know you said it only took about 30 seconds for them to say, hey, we need to get you to the locker room. But when you go in there, what is that like? Are they asking you questions? Is it mostly them poking and prodding and you're just kind of sweating it out? What is the training tent experience like?
Yeah, it's actually a really calm conversation. Those athletic trainers, they are very, very good at what they do. And they get you in there like, hey, okay, what happened? Where are you feeling pain? Is it a numbing pain? Is it a shooting pain? And they're just going through their checklist like they normally would with any other injury. Now, they know, hey, if this is something where we can just tape you up and get you back out there, then they do have a sense of urgency. But they also are calm with it. They understand, like, hey, this could be something serious. We've got to do our due diligence and make sure that we're taking care of this, human first before we try to put him back out onto the field. And so that always comes first is taking care of us. And I mean, shout out to that staff. They were very great. They were very calm in it. And they said, hey, we got to get you to go get x-rays. And so they had that cart pulled around, and I hopped on the back of the cart. And at that moment, I kind of knew what I was going to eventually learn in the next, 10 minutes. And so somebody had tossed me a Gatorade towel, and I kind of put that over my head. And, I let a couple tears out because I was just frustrated and a lot of emotions going through my mind. And drive back underneath the same tunnel that I ran out of in the Rose Bowl a couple, hours before that. And immediately I go into an x-ray room, same x-ray room that everybody else that's gotten, injured or had a break or something at the Rose Bowl has gone into. And so I go in there, and sure enough, takes about, maybe 2 minutes. I don't even have my pads off. I have my cleat off and my sock off, no more ankle tape. I've got my right cleat on. I've got my pants, my jersey, everything. My helmet's back at the field, and they get the x-ray, and they walk back around the side, and they say, hey, looks like you did break your ankle. We're already talking to your parents on the sideline. They'll meet you over in the locker room. And so, like any concerned parent, my mom sees me go down, sees me with the trainers, sees them carting me off. And so my mom walks down to the first row, and they told her, hey, look, it's a lower extremity, possibly fractured. We're going to take him in for x-rays. And then they tell her, hey, look, it is broken. So her and my dad end up getting let onto the field. They bring him into the locker room. And when I get back to the locker room, it's me, our athletic trainer, and my mom and my dad. And that was a pretty emotional time for us. Didn't really know what to expect. I had never really had a serious injury like that. And they had already discussed, hey, look, this is probably going to require going under the knife and having surgery. And they already had it scheduled for the next day. I mean, within 30 minutes, they already had surgery scheduled for the next morning and a plan for me on how I was going to get the surgery and return to play protocol. And that is just mind-blowing for me because I think that's such a huge deal. And they're like, okay, here, this is how it's going to go. Boom, boom, boom. And it's in line. And so I end up, taking a shower, taking off all of my pads and stuff. I get a boot, I get some crutches, and I'm like, I need to get back out there. I kept asking, what's the score? What's the score? What's the score? And as we all know, the score was not going in the correct way. And I end up getting back out there. I'm standing on the bench, and I see the play where Josh Rosen throws one up. I'm like, oh, it's an interception. We got this. It's an interception. It goes through our safety's hands, and they end up scoring a touchdown on that one. And then at that point, I was like, okay, I'm not sitting on this bench anymore. I'm going to get up, and I'm going to start talking to these guys, trying to start rallying them together. Like, we got to get this thing going. And then, yeah, it was, game ends in an absolute heartbreaking loss. And then on the bus, got home. I think we got home at like 4 a.m. that day, and my surgery was scheduled for 7 a.m. And so I just slept at the locker room, and I had our athletic trainer take me in about 2 hours. After a 2-hour nap, took me there and had surgery, woke up the next day.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy that they have it so regimented and scheduled that you were right in surgery that quickly. What was the reaction with your teammates? You're on the bus, you're on the plane, they're seeing you on the sidelines. What are those reactions like, and kind of getting those interactions with your teammates after it happens?
It actually happened so quick that when I came back out of the locker room with the boot on and with the crutches, I had like half of the defense, because they were playing a drive. They didn't see me interact with the trainers, and during the course of their first like 5 plays, they had already determined, hey, you need to go get x-rays, and I was out of there. Mm-hmm. And so they just assumed like, oh, they must have just put Kellen in, like, hey, they're just rotating guys. They might have just put Kellen in the game right now. And then when I came back out with my boot and my crutches, some of the defensive players were like, dude, what happened? like, when did this happen? No one even really knew what had gone on. And that's pretty like on par. You're so locked into a game that you're not just looking at an injury tent, or you're not looking at the training table, or the cart that's pulling people. If it's a big thing and they cart you off of the actual field, well then, everyone sees it, and they're all giving you your best wishes, and they're saying that they're praying for you and stuff. And then so I did come back out with that on, and I had a lot of teammates coming up to me and just saying, hey, we're gonna be praying for you, man. Like, keep battling. And a lot of them just confused on what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
And when they found out, like, oh yeah, you broke your ankle and you need surgery, like, oh shoot, I was not expecting that. And so at that time I was just like, guys, just surround Kellen, like, be with him right now, like, he needs you guys. And they really did. They surrounded him, and they encouraged him, and tried to do everything that they could for him.
So let's look at the other side of this. You've also been the guy who comes off the bench when a quarterback gets hurt. What are the mechanics of that like? Because of course we'll put into context Connors. He gets hit on a I believe it was second down play. He gets up, kind of limps, was able to play the next play, but then it's fourth down. And during the punt, he goes into the training tent. What is the mechanics like in the situations that you were in, and when your number's called and said, hey, you got to get in there as kind of the backup and the guy who's spelling the guy?
Yeah. So come in for an injured quarterback, obviously it's never an ideal situation. You never want anything bad to ever happen to that starting quarterback. And that's always been my theory is quarterbacks, not only are we the heart and soul of the team, but like, we have to be each other's biggest supporters. Because if your quarterback room is going at it, then you can't have any unity in your whole team. And so quarterback rooms where they encourage each other, they help each other out, and they're wishing for the best actually for each other, those are the best rooms. And when I was at Arkansas, actually, this happened. KJ Jefferson was starting against LSU. I had been kind of demoted to like third or fourth string. Wasn't even the true backup, but KJ goes down in the third quarter. And by this time, I haven't thrown a football since pregame. And it's kind of same thing. He gets injured on a third down. He gets sacked, gets a head injury. And we're looking at him on the sideline, and he had not really been checked out by the trainers yet. And he was really, really out of it. And we're kind of talking as quarterbacks, like, hey, KJ, are you okay, man? Like, what's going on? And just wasn't really responsive to us. And so, we went over, like, grabbed the trainer, and LSU scores. They kick off as a touchback, and our coach is looking over at us going, okay, well, KJ's not going, so Starkel go. And the whole time, I hadn't gotten any reps the whole week at with our actual guys. I'd been doing scout team, running LSU's offense for our defense. And so you have to have that general knowledge of the game plan of your offense. And that comes with it, having started earlier in the year and kind of lost that job. I knew the general offense, and then I knew exactly what we were doing in our game plan. I just hadn't physically repped it. And I didn't have too much of a heads up. And so, okay, kickoff goes out. We don't have TV timeout. And so it is, hey, Starkel, you're in, and the play clock is going. You've got to get ready to go right now. I'm wearing a beanie at the time. So, I'm like, oh, I haven't touched my helmet since since pregame. I need to find my helmet. And so your equipment managers are really dialed in on where the quarterback helmets are. That's probably like the most important helmets. They find where the quarterback helmets are. And so one of the equipment managers is running back there and finds my helmet and comes out, hands it to me. And I vividly remember I didn't throw a pass on the sideline because I didn't have time. And so I gave it one of these. And I went out there, and I ended up throwing like a field corner route, like the second pass that I threw, or like a field comeback to the other side. I remember I threw two like ridiculously long throws, and I hadn't thrown a ball in probably an hour and a half plus. And so it can be a very stressful situation, and you want to kind of just find that first completion. Like, okay, let me just dump this one off to a slant. Let me throw a little out route, get me on the run, throw a boot, throw a little flat to a tight end. But no, we were coming out swinging, and I was throwing it deep, and so it's kind of a weird headspace because you want to be playing in that game, but you never want it to be under those circumstances. You never wish that one of your brothers, one of your teammates, one of the guys that you're closest with, you spend the most time with, ever goes down with an injury, and that's the reason that you play. You want to play because, hey, look, I earned these reps. And I'm not saying that a backup going in didn't earn those reps. You earned that right to be the guy that's next up. And so Max he's earned that to be next up, and he answers the call. When you get in there, you want to be able to find those completions. You want to be able to operate the offense, and then you kind of catch your stride. And especially coming as a guy that has played a lot of football before in Max, it's kind of similar situation that I had been in.
Mm-hmm.
It only takes a couple of plays, then hey, I'm back in the zone. Like, let's do this thing now. I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hats off to Max. He took this opportunity, he ran with it, and I'm really excited to see what he can continue to do the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and so from what you were saying, it was an actual. You don't ever want that to happen, but if it's going to happen in a situation going right into halftime where you have the whole halftime to kind of get adjusted was a boost for A&M's offense this past week.
100%. Now you can take that whole entire halftime. Coach Fisher can talk to you about, hey, what are you comfortable with? I know you haven't gotten a crazy amount of reps this week, but what are you comfortable with throwing? What are you comfortable with doing? And really, it's talking to those receivers like, hey, guys, we got a guy that you might not have gotten every rep with this week, but he's a hell of a quarterback. He's going to come in. He's going to make the right plays. He's going to make the right reads. Help him out with as much as you can. And then probably the toughest part is the communication, because sometimes, you got different like nuances in your cadence, little bit different dialects in your cadences and stuff like that. You might have a couple of false starts where the O-line's like, hey, dude, I can't hear you, or hey, it sounds different than whenever Connor's in there. And so maybe they're flinching a little earlier, or maybe the snap's coming a little later. But I don't think that you saw a lot of those things happen because they kind of had a heads up. It wasn't like a mid-drive. They just threw them in, hey, look, they had halftime, and then when they came back out for the second half, they're getting snaps with him. Everybody's getting right and dialed in. And so I think that if there is a time probably for that to be most ideal for, a backup quarterback getting thrust in the position, I think that right before half is probably the most ideal time.
And so he came in and took care of business through 2 touchdown passes pretty quick, and that's what A&M needed to beat Auburn. Just briefly, from what you could see on TV, what did you like, and what did you see that the A&M offense was able to do to kind of flip the script there once he came in?
Yeah, I think that it was just they settled him down and they allowed him to just find some completions. Whether it's throwing a check down, whether it was throwing a little 5-yard enter route, they let him get his rhythm going, which is the best thing a play caller can do. Get him comfortable in that setting. Practice is great. You can get as many reps in practice as you can. There's not 110,000 people watching you at practice. It's a little different under the lights. And it's a little different under that, 12th man with really the standard that they have. Their standard is excellence, and they want excellence. They demand excellence out of you. And so you want to be able to get those completions in, and then you want to be methodical in when you're taking those shots. And so, you saw some good play actions. You saw some good deep crossing routes. Hey, get a 7-man protection going, get that tight end chipping, get him out, get that running back chipping, and then get him out. And then let's use our athletes and our dudes on the outside, and let's take our shots. And he threw a beautiful, beautiful ball, deep ball to the left side in the game. And that's whenever you can tell, like, okay, this guy is back in his stride. He's got it going now, and I'm really excited to see what he can do the rest of the season, for as long as he's there.
Yeah. Let's shift gears just a little bit. There's almost no better person to talk about the upcoming Texas A&M Arkansas game up in AT&T Stadium, Jerry World. You've been on both sides of this game. What is it about this game that A, makes the game crazy, and B, just stands out into your mind about what this game's all about?
Yeah. What yeah, what a wild set of emotions it was walking out there. Um, not for the Aggies, but for the Razorbacks, that one year in 2019. That was a game that I think everyone on both A&M and Arkansas side had circled. And every year it is, because it's a fantastic atmosphere. Playing in Cowboys Stadium is one of the coolest experiences ever. I mean, like that is like the mecca of football. You know, the Dallas Cowboys play there, America's team, and then you get a chance to go strap up your helmet and try to go make some plays on that field. And it's always two teams that are very competitive. I mean, that game is always coming down to like one possession in the last, geez, I don't know the stats on it, but I feel like every single time it's one possession or hey, it gets into overtime even. And so we always know at both A&M and at Arkansas, this game's going to come down to the end. And so we've got to make sure we take this thing, keep it close, and then battle in the fourth quarter. Um, walking out of the field, walking out of the tunnel and not going to the A&M sideline and going to the Arkansas sideline was a strange feeling. Um, all the familiar faces that you see on the other side. And I'm not just talking about players. Like, I mean, I had my roommates that I was roommates with the year before, and they're tackling me in the game. They're blitzing off the edge, trying to come and get me. But it's the academic support staff, it's the athletic trainers, it's the strength coaches. I mean, you just see so many faces that you have so many stories, so many memories and bonds with, and now you're going against them, and they want nothing more than to beat you. It's a really really unique experience, but that stadium gets rocking. Everyone comes down to Dallas. I feel like everyone that goes to the University of Arkansas, like I feel like 75% of those people are probably from Dallas area or from Texas, and so it really is one of the best games in college football. It means a lot to both sides. There's a lot of pride involved in that game. Win is the only option. It's the only option for that game. You don't want to lose that game, because that kind of sets the standard for the rest of the season and kind of how the SEC plays out. It's usually an earlier game in the season, and then that kind of sets you up for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I'll throw one more curveball at you, because that's become the new thing for this thing. I know you mentioned playing with KJ Jefferson. What is he like as a quarterback? He's a guy A&M's going to go up against this weekend, and as a guy, what can A&M fans and the A&M defense expect with this guy?
He is a tough quarterback. I mean, like he's the epitome of tough. He is going to not shy away from anybody. I remember him as a true freshman. We put him in there against Mississippi State, and he takes a little power read option, goes down the line, breaks it to the secondary, and he's got a pretty big safety from Mississippi State barreling down at him. And rather than trying to juke, go around him, try to go over him, he goes straight through him and lowers his shoulder, lowers his helmet, and just runs right over this guy. And so that was one of his first plays ever in a game. And to me, I was like, okay, this is a little different cat. Like he's got some juice, and he is not afraid of anybody. And so you're gonna have a fearless quarterback playing against you, and he's definitely gonna go out there and kind of look for some hits and rely on his lower body as well, which I feel like kind of fits the brand for Arkansas football. I remember they had Cole Kelly for a while, and they'd put him down in the red zone and in the goal line, and they'd say, "Hey, look, go get us those 3 yards," and they'd put the ball in his hand and let him go. And so I'd expect KJ to do the same thing. Like I said, this is a big game about pride. So if it comes down to, hey, we're tougher than you, then they're going to try to out-tough you. And same thing with A&M. Hey, you guys know we're running the ball on 4th and short. Hey, we're going to run the ball on 4th and short and make you stop us. And so I love this game. Like I love this game as a fan. I love watching it. As a former player of both sides, I absolutely love it. I will not ever give another score prediction, because I gave one last year. And it made a lot of people angry. And I think I was also exactly right with my score prediction, which was very strange. But I won't do it again.
Well, that's why you have to retire, because if you get it right, you should never make another score prediction again. Just end on a high.
Yeah, I'm ending on 100% correct on score and winner. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, let's finish it out with this, because I thought this was funny when you mentioned you going in that 2019 game playing against guys, your roommates, guys are kind of trying to tackle you. Do you remember, was there any really funny chirps from your former teammates that you can remember that is okay to say on a family-friendly podcast?
Okay, so I had all of my team. I had all of my. So I had two former roommates. I had Aaron Hansford and I had Ikena Okeke. Love those guys like to death. Like those are like my brothers. They're gonna be in my wedding whenever I get married. And they were telling me the whole week they were gonna take my chain off of me if I was in the bottom of a pile. And so whole time, anytime I got tackled, I was like holding my neck, making sure they didn't take my chain. And so that was like the whole week going on. And then they send me a video. Justin Matabike had a picture of me in his locker room the whole week up on his locker. And every day they would send me a Snapchat picture of Justin staring at the photo. And I was like, if there's one guy not to mess with on A&M's defense, it is Justin. And sure enough, the crazy, college football life that I've lived, I end up throwing an interception. It gets tipped up. Sure enough, Justin Matabike catches it, and there's only one guy left to try to tackle him, and it's me. And I end up getting hurt on that play, but it was like, wow, what are the odds? The one guy that was saying he was going to, crush me the whole week, he's the one that I now have to try to tackle. So that was a pretty cool.
That's hilarious.
Pretty cool experience looking back at it. Not as great.
That's hilarious. Okay, who do the Sea Kings have this week?
Sea Kings play the Edison Chargers here in Huntington Beach, so it's going to be a good one. We're matched up right there in the rankings. They're 27, we're 28, and so it's going to be a great game.
Should be a good weekend for football all around. Thanks so much for Nick Starkel for joining us this week and breaking some stuff down. Be sure to check theeagle.com as we continue to break things down for this Arkansas game coming up on Saturday, and we'll talk to you again next week.